welcome to Check It Out, Comrade, indie game podcast where every 2 weeks we bring you 2 indie games and tell you what we like about them. I'm Nick Glauber.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this week we're doing a couple games made with twine. We're doing Tea Leaves and Power Cycles.
And Cat's Cradle, which you play with actual twine. There's no game to Cat's Cradle, I don't think.
No, I think it's just like making different designs with just twine.
A thing you can do with your fingers. So we've done a twine game before. We did Horsemaster by Tom McHenry, and we're going to do another Tom McHenry game here, and we'll probably do another one in the future because I like his games a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I want to do this episode is because in the current kind of climate with gamers, being at each other's throats with Gamergate and shit, one of the big things that keeps coming up is people kind of arguing as to what is a game or what isn't a game or what can be a game, and that's a dumb argument.
Right. And
I'm sick of it, and it is stupid to say that. I mean, like, come on, I'm nuts. Like there's fucking Zork. Like twine is just an engine for text adventures.
Right.
And you can do a lot of really complicated things with it. You can do a lot of simple things with it. But I think that it is kind of a fool's errand to kind of limit what we can define a game as. That seems like it's not going to be good for the medium.
Yeah.
So as members of the press, so to speak, it is good to do our part to kind of shed some light on smaller things developed in this engine.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're not familiar with Twine, it's just a interactive fiction engine that helps you build games that you can be played in your browser, and you can do really advanced like branching paths and stuff. So it's really well designed to be super simple and make you be able to make super complicated text adventures essentially if you want to.
Yeah.
So it's a really neat tool, and people are making really good use of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, especially Tom. Tom's doing a really good job.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. He's working on a bigger, I feel like is probably going to be his biggest game that he's done. And that's going to come out in a few weeks, which I'm really excited about. If you've never messed with it, and also this is kind of a PSA to people out there who want to make games or have interest in this. It is a really cool program and really intuitive. Like it is, it has a graphical interface that, if you ever watch somebody, like if you follow somebody like Ron Gilbert or something on Twitter, and he shows like the branching paths in adventure games he does it with like Post-it notes and just draws lines between them. That's essentially the graphical interface of Twine is, different boxes with text in them, and then you hyperlink to other boxes.
Right.
And then there's kind of behind the scenes stuff you can do with counters and on-off states and everything. And it's really like, it's a cool thing, and it's like part of this democratization of game making that I really dig. That kind of, like Game Maker is great, and you can do all kinds of awesome stuff with Game Maker. And this is even kind of like I feel like this is a step more accessible.
Yeah.
Than that, and I'm really in favor of it.
Yeah, it's dead simple. It's open source and free, and like you can download the whole tool and run it from your PC, or you can just run it on Twine's own servers and then like save your copy and upload it wherever you want.
Yeah, so, and tons of resources for how to do stuff, tons of tutorials and back end stuff to do. If there's something you want to do in the engine, there's probably a YouTube out there or a page that will show you how to do it.
Yeah. So I mean, and interactive fiction is a cool way to stretch your writing brain and get that part of a game design kind of cemented really quickly, really easily. So it's a really neat tool.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nick, tell me about Power Cycles without necessarily spoiling Power Cycles. We should save that for the spoiler section.
Yeah. So, like we said, it's a text adventure per se made in Twine by Tom McHenry, who did, as Gary said, Horsemaster before. And you know how we enjoyed the subversive techno future in that one. Well, this is a similar techno future where hackers are kind of trying to define the world and make laws the way they want to.
Fight the megacorps.
Yeah, they need to fight the megacorps.
It is a game that puts you in the shoes of the ultimate hacker.
Yeah.
About to do the ultimate hack. And that's really all you can really find out. This takes about 3 minutes to play.
If that, it takes like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it takes like 30 seconds to play. It is a really awesome expression of using expectations of genre and play to make a joke.
Yeah.
That I really like. And also I love cyberpunk fiction. you know, we've played Shadowrun before, and we talked about Shadowrun on the show and everything. And I feel like this is a worthy successor to the Shadowrun name. And it is great. And you should definitely go play it. That web address is noncanon, noncanon.com/2015/powercycles.html.
Yeah.
Or just Google Tom McHenry Power Cycles.
Right.
And this is, you know, we wanted to include this because it is short and funny, as opposed to kind of longer and sad, which is the next thing we want.
Right. It also has something cool with Twine in that it actually kind of makes use of graphics using essentially ASCII art, just colored ASCII characters to create a couple graphical scenes, which is neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are graphics in Horsemaster as well, and this there's actually, they're kind of interactive in this. And when I was talking to Tom about it, in the interest of full disclosure, I met Tom in real life, and he is a friend of mine.
Right.
And when I talked to him about it, he was saying how he more or less made this game to see if he could do that.
Yeah.
Which makes me excited to see what he's going to do with that knowledge in the future.
Yeah. So at the end of the game, during the credits, he kind of tells you about a template. I think it might be opened up where he essentially tried to make, you know, a WarioWare style couple click game with Twine, and it's pretty obvious how he did it, but I can see it taking some effort to discover how to make Twine do what you want to do there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, super inventive.
Yeah.
The second game we're going to talk about is Tea Leaves by David Pavlis, who is also somebody who is a friend of mine. He's been on Bonfireside Chat. Mm-hmm. He works for Riot, and he'd been working on this for a while. I kind of followed that he was doing this on Twitter. And tell me what is cool about Tea Leaves.
Yeah. Tea Leaves is really neat. It's the setting is essentially a world where everybody kind of gets a glimpse into the future once they reach a certain age. Your own future, essentially. You know things that will affect you. Maybe, you know, affect a wider swath of people as well on top of it. But everybody hits a specific birthday, 16th birthday specifically. It looks like, mm-hmm. and you get to go and have this event happen where you go through some kind of fortune tellery type story crafting. And those stories will lead you to get some notes that tell you about the future of yourself. And they're crafted out in the end as something that's going to happen very soon, in the near future, late in your life, and how it's all going to end.
Yeah, and the kind of the tone behind it's really neat. So like it takes place where there's a, you know, in this world there's a machine that kind of can tell your future, and it is set in stone. It's not, you know, or at least that's what the psychologist or doctor your character talks to says.
Yeah.
But it has to actually be kind of set. And what you're doing in the game is you're calibrating the machine. So like the Twine game that you are playing mirrors the game that the character is playing, in that you are making these choices to kind of, and it's kind of like a little bit of a personality test, mm-hmm. That will determine what happens in your life. So like you are doing the same thing that the character would be doing. And essentially, you know, you're choosing these kind of symbols, a series of, you know, if you've ever seen, in the beginning of Ghostbusters, the psychic reading cards where the character, you know, is trying to, the SP cards, they're like that pretty much. And, you know, then you get told these little kind of like 2 or 3 paragraph stories, and you get to tell how they end.
Right.
And there's tons of them. And there's, depending on how you answer those, you get these different outcomes. And what's really kind of neat about it, I think, and I feel like I played through this 3 times now. I feel like there's something hidden in it that I can't, and I don't know if that's true, but it doesn't actually matter. I think getting the sense of something hidden there is good enough.
Yeah.
Even if there's not.
Right.
Like, it just feels like I kept feeling like I was trying to like discover the secrets. Like early on when you're in the waiting room, they ask you to wait. And I was like, well, what happens if I don't click anything for 10 minutes? You know, and I went and made dinner and nothing happened. And then, you know, at the end, when you get your fortune results, you have the option of looking at them or not.
Right.
Which is really cool. And I was like, man, you know, I want to see them. Like I was feeling the same kind of temptation that the character would feel.
Right.
And I've tried, you know, denying that temptation and giving into it and a couple different things. And there's just a real air of like, and kind of just with the writing and the atmosphere that's going on here, there's a real air of there being kind of secrets in the corners.
Yeah, it's also very well done in a way that you get straight into the seat of the character. So like very early on, maybe after the first couple stories, I started really just like reading the stories and answering them as I would, and then felt like, you know, weirdly attracted to what the fortunes would be, and almost, you know, related them to myself. I saved the ending I got on the one playthrough I do, the end fortune, just because it was so great. It feels actually like real close to how I like the end actually could happen.
how you're likely to die.
Yeah,
like vaping and skateboarding off a cliff.
not quite.
Leaders, fuckers. No, and one of the things he says after you beat the game is he says try going through and answering the questions with like a specific mindset. So it encourages like kind of like a role playing aspect, because a lot of times the answers that you have and how you complete the stories when you're calibrating the machine in the fiction kind of go two different ways. There's kind of like a darker one, and there's a little bit more magical of one. And you can kind of put yourself in a mindset and go through the whole game role playing it. And depending on how you do that, that's going to impact the ending in ways that I haven't quite figured out. Like there's just a lot of content to it for something that doesn't take very long to play, but it's like something you go over in layers and layers.
Yeah. It probably takes, 10 minutes or so to get through all the little stories leading to your end. So it's, it's nice and short, and really like each of the stories is interesting in its own right too. So like playing the game is also reading some fun little stories and coming up with endings to those.
Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit when we did Elegy, in that they kind of function as like you're starting the first sentence after a writing prompt.
Right.
Like these kind of like, just to throw an example, and I mean, this is just one of them and there's tons of them in there, so it's only kind of a spoiler. There's one about church where like, it tells you the story about this girl who was always comforted in church. And even if there wasn't a sermon going on, just felt like comfortable in it, and just kind of describes this church. And then, says that, and unfortunately you're never able to go back there. And the two options you get are, because the janitor fell asleep while smoking a cigar and burned it down, or your family was no longer welcome there after like the day or something like that.
Right.
And it doesn't spell out what that day is, but it's a really evocative, like, that's a hook. And there's a lot of these little hooks in the game. Yeah. That just kind of fire the imagination without actually engaging it literally.
Yeah. And for little one sentence choices, they're always like super hooky in very different ways.
Yeah. And there's just tons of them. Like you go through several rounds of this, and you're not going to see all of them on one playthrough.
No, definitely not.
And they may or may not influence each other. I don't know how much branching is going on behind the scenes. Like, I don't know if you pick the card with the TV on it, if you always get the same story, or if depending on the card you picked beforehand, that is actually different.
I think they definitely, like, I'm pretty sure at the end he says there's something like 18 endings, and I think that's like specific to each of the different cards. Okay. So there's probably like a lot of back end influence, kind of redirecting you towards getting certain fortunes versus other ones.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting. Like I would love to see what the like source code of it looks like. Yeah. And see, to see the big wall of Post-it notes.
Yeah.
That did this. I know there's also a counter aspect going on just because he mentioned it on Twitter kind of nonchalantly. So I'm just curious about it. The other thing that made me think there's a secret is he said on Twitter, he was like, my favorite ending in this game is something that like 99.9% of players are never going to see. Or something like that, which is just like, I don't know, it's evocative. Like it feels like a challenge. Like, so it's very cool.
Super cool.
And you can find that it's at navistudios.net, NAVI studios.net/tea leaves. And we'd recommend that as well. Like, unlike other episodes of the show we've done, playing both these games for the show will take you 15, 20 minutes on the outside. Right. To kind of get your way through it. But they're both kind of just like really neat, enriching experiences. And I really like the idea of games being able to be this kind of bite-size, like, like, wow, I've either like I'm feeling something I wasn't expecting to feel, or I'm going to laugh at this joke I did not know before I did this thing, and that's valuable and great.
Yeah, this is a really cool medium to explore super bite-sized thought bubbles. It's just like something that you could be the basis in a bigger game, like the kind of overarching deep story going on in a game could be like something that's this provocative or this intriguing, but you can quickly and easily explore it in a small story because you can do this branching paths, multiple easily connected storyline stuff in Twine. So
the fact that there are branching paths at all means that your brain is going to fill in the paths not taken, which makes everything feel bigger. Yeah. Like in a way that, like, if it was just a short story, it would feel like that's it on the page. And this is more about tea leaves than power cycles. Right. I feel like I got power cycles. But and it was true of Horsemaster too, though, where I felt like the fact that there are choices involved make me kind of like see things on the horizon or on the edges of my vision that, like, you know, I don't know. It just makes everything feel bigger and more kind of weightier than it really is. Right. And if you were to incorporate these stories in a bigger game, like, you'd be doing things before these story moments. Like, you know, it'd be like BioShock Infinite, where, like, before I go and get this emotional punch, I'm going to go shoot about 4 dozen guys. Like, right. It would be dumb.
Yeah, it weakens the message.
Yeah, like you can just kind of get across, like, games can be a way to just get across this emotional idea. And that's something to be saluted. So
it's like opening up the Choose Your Own Adventures platform to people who can write better than any of the Choose Your Own Adventures authors could.
Yeah, which, like, if we're doing for Watch Out for Fireballs, we're doing game books for an upcoming episode. So I've pulled out my Choose Your Own Adventure books and I've been reading some, and Christ Almighty, those are badly written books. You know, and other game books too, and they are almost uniformly pretty poorly written. Right. So yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, they're like Choose Your Own Adventures for adults. Mm-hmm. And you can do all kinds of cool shit with them mechanically too. Yeah. So good job. Yeah, good job, guys. Good job, makers of Twine. Good job, future generation that has this kind of ease of game making.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm real glad. Like, interactive fiction's been around obviously since, like, the start. But Twine's made it super accessible to both the creators and the people who are ingesting the medium. So, like, yeah, good job, guys.
And that's the thing that it just drives me fucking nuts when people argue that this stuff isn't a game, because, like, this is some of the earliest, like, games. Like, there are interactive fiction championships. Like, there are awards given out every year. Right. Like, it is a thing that people still do. There's a documentary about them. Like, it is still a thing. And it was hugely influential for such a long time. Yeah. That to just, like, dismiss it because it doesn't, you know, it's not graphical is just crazy to me.
Definitely. I mean, like, you're doing an episode on game books. It's like, obviously this is a game, that there's aspects in here that make it a game versus a purely, you know, visual medium or audio medium or something. Yeah. There's interaction that once you have that level of interaction, you're now a game. I don't care what small frame you want to put games in, but if it's an interactive piece of medium, then it's a game.
Well, there's like a triumvirate. Like, there's like a triangle with, like, narrative in one corner and game in one corner and toy in the other corner. And the thing that, like, I believe and that I want people to realize is that, like, things exist in the middle of this triangle. It's like very rarely is something shunted to one corner. It's
a gradient. Your percentage of each of those, and how heavily you decide to focus on one is your choice as the creator of one of these pieces of medium. So yeah. So people who are listening to this probably already know that, but I just wanted to rant about it for a minute because it really burns my craw. Yeah. Before we briefly talk about real minor spoiler stuff? Yeah. What can people do to help out the show, Nick? Well, we have all of our social media outlets. We're on facebook.com/checkitoutcomrade and also on Twitter @Comrade Podcast. Our official site is on Duckfeed.tv/Comrade, and there you can find all of our past episodes as well as the contact form to tell us any games you want to see or provide us with any sort of feedback. And if you want to help us monetarily, we have a Patreon going right now, and that is at patreon.com/Duckfeed, correct?
Duckfeed.tv.
Duckfeed.tv. So patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. And on there you can sign up to give us, $1 or $2 a month, get some extra goodies on your own behalf, and help us out a good deal.
Yeah. And, this is a little bit of a shorter episode. Part of that is practical because I'm traveling, so I'm gone for almost a week. Right. Next week. So we needed to get something out quicker. But we'll be back in a fortnight with a longer, more substantial episode that is about something that is no more a game than this, but is probably longer.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we're gonna talk a little bit about both these games and some more spoilery aspects. Like we said, these take very little time to play, so we highly recommend you get your own playthroughs before you come have a listen.
Yeah.
Hi, Rory. How are you doing, Rory?
Yeah, he's hungry. Yeah. So yeah, good night, everybody.
Yep. Bye.
There's nothing funnier, obviously, than deconstructing a joke, which is not funny. But my favorite thing about power cycles is that if you listen to the phrase power cycles, it sounds so fucking rad and futuristic already for being something that literally just means turn it back on, turn it off, and turn it back on again.
Yeah, it's real subversive. It's a really good joke.
Like the font.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Perfect, like retro future 80s stuff.
That is so good. And then I love, again, just so like the spoilery, section of this is you're gonna commit the ultimate hack, but your router is not doing great, so you need to power cycle it, and you get this little timer, like a little WarioWare game, where you have to unplug and replug in your router.
That's it.
Graphically, and then if you do it, it's just like crushed it.
Yeah,
you did
fucking did it, bro.
Like there's no, it doesn't matter. You did the hack.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you don't power cycle it.
Like so. I laughed heartily when that happened, and I was like, title's perfect. Just to make sure, like I played it a couple more times just to make sure there wasn't like some deeper thing that I was missing, some like hidden part, and it was just the joke that I thought was humorous.
Nope. It is.
That's all there is.
If you look at the title, like it tells you what the game is going to be.
Right. No, yeah.
It is not. It is not about. It's not called like Future Hackers.
It's called Power Cycle.
Yeah. And when you don't do it, it says, net denied.
Yeah.
So good.
I don't know if you noticed, but there's 2 ways to restart your router. You can you can unplug the cable from the wall, or you can unplug the cable from the router.
I didn't. I've only unplugged it from the wall.
Deep cuts.
Secrets. And then this is just a throwaway joke, and my favorite line in the whole thing is that in the 21st century, all crime has been outlawed. All crime has been outlawed is a genius fucking line. So
that's such a good line.
That's very good.
I also like that it's like the year 200X.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometime between 2001 and 2009. I have it up right now, and I just did the alternate power cycle.
Nice.
With unplugging it. That's good.
Yeah.
Feel good about that.
Deep secrets.
Crushed it.
All right. Yeah. So for Tea Leaves, I really want to read this ending I got. I think it's really good and super well written and perfect for me. So
read it.
My the end fortune from Tea Leaves. So if you've played it, you get 4 fortunes, and one of them is the end, how it would all end for you. And mine was, as it does for so many people, the promise of death will loom over your last years like the sword of Damocles. Sorry. Okay. You will follow the turn to religion for comfort. Instead of choosing one of the more established religions, though, you'll join the relatively new sects of the day. Yours will be one of many that hope for eternal life through the development of artificial intelligence. Your savings will be wasted on unrealistic research, and you'll be alone in the end.
Aw.
Yep.
You're going to try to her.
Yep, exactly. I liked it. I thought that was a nice cyberpunky ending right after playing Power Cycles.
A lot of the futures suggest these kind of like sad but not over the top futures. Mm-hmm. There's one where they talk about moving to artificial islands, like they're gonna have these artificial islands, and like you're depressed and you're not sure why. You get something called like artificial, like island depression syndrome, or IDS or something, which what they later term it, because people have to move to these man-made islands because there's obviously too much ocean in the future, like that, without actually spelling it out.
That's cool.
Lots of really good suggesting whole worlds from tiny details.
Yeah, all these little stories that just kind of lead you onto totally different trains of thought. Super cool.
Yeah. Very, very good job, guys.
Yeah.
And again, do all the things. Mm-hmm. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good night.